Welcome to Inside Your Finance podcast, where we explore people's relationships with money by chatting with everyday professionals like me and you. We learn their money mistakes, their money wins, and their tips and tricks that they've learned along the way. On today's episode, we have someone who is a powerhouse in every sense of the word. She is an FCPA, a certified fraud examiner. She is the chief compliance officer at a leading financial institution here in Canada, and she sits on various boards. On top of that, she is a loving wife and mother to 4 amazing children, and a great husband. And on top of that, she is a fitness enthusiast and an avid runner. In fact, she just completed the Calgary Half Marathon last year. Welcome, Chioma Ufodike.
Thank you, Jennifer, for having me.
Thank you for being here. I feel like I always say this to all my guests, thanks for being here. But after, I did some stalking, I'm like, you must be so busy. So for making time to come here, I'm very grateful. So thank you.
No problem. I wouldn't have missed it. Glad to be here.
All right. So Chioma, so obviously I just read your bio. You've done a lot professionally. You're obviously in a leading position at a firm. What makes Chioma tick? Outside of the professional, fraud examiner, forensic accounting, what makes you happy?
Oh, it doesn't take much to make me happy. Outside my career, I would say it's just spending time building meaningful relationships, and that involves my children. I have 4 beautiful children, and they are at a stage right now where their lives are so active and was so busy with extracurricular activities like soccer schedules. My daughter's learning how to drive now. She's taking summer school. And then my husband, and traveling is also something that we enjoy doing, just to go someplace, let loose, and then recharge, and then come back to face our hectic lives. So it doesn't take much to get me happy. I think just seeing my children thrive. I think God has blessed me with really good kids, and to be honest, I don't have any complaints. They're very compliant. They know what they need to do. Yes, they know what they need to do. And, their trajectory in terms of what they see as success, they've defined for themselves.
Oh, wow.
So I'll say my children, meaningful relationships, my family, my sisters, my travel group, I call them.
Yeah.
And,
Okay. So family, relationships, travel is what makes you
Absolutely.
happy. All right. That's interesting. So obviously this podcast is a money podcast. I found that money is not something that people talk about a lot, especially in their friend groups. It's kind of just hush hush. And so that's why I started this, so that we can explore individuals, relationships with money, and just chat more about it. And one of the things that I really like to explore is how much of how we relate to money is based on how we were raised versus who we are innately. So I always ask my guests, first question is, how is money talked about at home? And how much of that do you think influences the way you see money or relate with money today?
That's a very interesting question, Jen. I would say growing up in Nigeria, I'm from Nigeria, in my household, money wasn't really a topic of conversation, just like you said, right? It wasn't a subject that we discussed like the way I discuss money with my children now. With my kids, I teach them about financial literacy. So at the time they turned 8, I can remember teaching them about debit and credit card. They had bank cards. I taught them how that worked, what the difference is between a debit card and a credit card. Although they didn't understand that when you keep making debits, you need to put credit so you can use that card.
Yeah.
Yes, and I also taught them about credit. Maybe they don't understand, in detail what that meant, but they get the concept about, building credit. But growing up in Nigeria, I think that there was a direct correlation between having money and security, or having money and being very successful.
Right.
Having money and garnering that level of respect from people. But also, I think what I learned growing up was, having money, there was that pathway to having a successful life. Money was seen to be the pathway for success.
Right.
So I think the value that my parents instilled in us while we're growing up was that value of education. So if you want to be successful, if you want that pathway to a successful life, you needed something, right? And that's something that we anchored to was education. So even back home in Nigeria, we went to the best schools. My mom was the director of education, and then immigrating out here, it was always dawned on us that you have to go to school, because you go to school, you get good grades, you graduate, you get a good job, then you get money, right? And then you become successful. Then there's that respect and security.
Right.
So
everything was sort of ultimately so that you can make more money, or make money so that you can have that security and safety.
Absolutely. Just to have that pathway to a successful life, or just that financial freedom or security. But the funny thing is, we never sat down and talked about it, right? But you can see it.
It was kind of ingrained in you.
Absolutely.
So I'm curious, in terms of like the relationship, so how did your parents manage money? Were they spenders, savers, or was it kind of just a balance in between?
I would say a balance in between. I would say we grew up in the middle class family where we didn't want for nothing. We were very comfortable in the sense that we went to the best schools. I went to Federal Benin, and we were also able to travel every summer, right?
Okay.
So middle class family, I would say my parents, we lived within our means.
Okay.
We didn't want for nothing, and I think we had a very loving relationship. I didn't come from a very big family. I just have 3 sisters and my mom and dad. So I wouldn't say they were frugal, but I wouldn't say that they spent frivolously. But I would just say it was the right balance. That's my perception of what I saw.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, because I think I found like other guests have said that, it was dad was the planner, mom was the spender, and eventually as they grew up, they took on like a balanced approach where it's like they spend some, but then they also save because they're pulling from both sides.
Well, that's interesting you say that. My mom is a very strong woman. Like, if you know my mom, she was, like I said, she was director of education, so she was earning her own income. So she wasn't really a stay-at-home wife. And my dad was a geologist. He worked as well. So I would say combined household income.
Interesting.
And we never really saw the disparity because everything we wanted was just provided.
Right.
But so I would probably say through my lens, I saw it as a balance.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that's good to know. So I guess as you then journey through life, from a kid being raised at home with your parents, what would you say was the best financial decision you took at maybe in your 20s or your younger years that's paying off right now?
Oh, in my 20s. I purchased my first condo when I was 19.
Wow.
Yeah, in Toronto. We immigrated I immigrated with my family to Vancouver in 1996. I was 16 and didn't really like Vancouver that much. It was very slow paced for me. And then I had heard about this province called Ontario and this city called Toronto. It was hustling and bustling like a Lagos. And I thought, what am I doing here? Anyway, I applied to the University of Toronto, and I told my parents that was the only university in Canada that accepted me because I really wanted to go to Toronto.
Right.
And they allowed me to go. So I left home.
Were your parents here?
Yes,
okay.
We immigrated together.
Right. Okay.
So I left home at a very young age. And I would say the one financial decision that we made that paid off exponentially was purchasing that condo young. Like, just imagine I was in school. We were in school working like odd jobs here and there, but scraping those little savings.
Yes.
And me and my sisters and I, we purchased our first condo.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So walk me through that. Like, how did you guys, first of all, how did you even decide to buy a house? And then how did you go about getting the funds and then going through that process?
So it's a very interesting story because I always tell people, surround yourself with people who can help you grow. So at that time when we were 19, obviously we had friends that we would party with, you would go to school with, but we had this one friend, and I give credit to her, and I hope she gets to listen to this podcast one day because I've never said this out loud, but I will give her flowers. There was a girl that we all used to hang out with really, really close. She was our age, and she grew up in Toronto.
Okay.
But she bought her condo, and she was about buying her second condo.
Oh, wow.
And she used to work with my younger sister. So we sat down and we said, she doesn't have two heads. If she's able to purchase a condo, then we can.
Yeah.
So I think what she did demystified
Buying
home ownership.
right.
She made it seem that it was attainable to
Right,
us because we
right.
saw her do it in our eyes. Like, this is somebody that we could relate with. We go to clubs together,
Yeah,
we party
yeah.
together, went to school together, we work together. So if she could do it, we
can
could
do
do
it.
it. And then we started looking, we started saving. Right, because all of us, we had jobs at that time. So by the time you pay all your, your rent, your tuition,
Yeah.
whatever was left, we had the goal that we're going to purchase our own condo. So, and that's exactly what we did.
Interesting. And so you guys obviously you had to like cut your expenses and really just like focus more? Or how did you, because I think one of the key things that people, right, I guess in this generation, like getting a property seems unattainable because they think that cost of living is super high. So it's like you don't have any extra savings to save for a down payment for a house, right? I imagine it might have been different at
Back
that
then.
time, but was there any specific thing that you did to sort of be able to get that down payment? Or was it really just because you had a job and because you had that goal, you were just naturally saving more?
Yeah, I would say in this life, once you set a goal, I'm the kind of person that once I set a goal, I will work towards achieving that goal. So the goal at that time was home ownership or condo ownership at that time,
Right.
owning a property. And, we started investigating how to do that. I worked in the bank at that time at the
Okay.
National Fraud Detection Group. So I had contacts in the branch who would let me know, okay, what the down payment needed to be,
Right.
what potentially the mortgage payments would be, property tax and other incremental expenses after you own a home
Right.
that you weren't aware of. So, I guess between me and my sisters, I'm the accountant in the group. So I crunched the
Right.
numbers. I knew exactly what we needed to have as down payment.
Okay.
And I think back then you only needed about 5%. So it wasn't too bad
Right.
to type in the value of the house. And then we started saving
Okay.
and that's how it happened.
So it was really just having that goal in mind and working
Absolutely.
towards it. All right, awesome. So that's great. Buying a property at 19. How did that then, trickle down to now at your age? Like, how are you seeing the benefit of making that decision?
Oh, like I said, it demystified, attaining a home or home ownership, right? So having gone through that, we had it for a while, we held it, we bought it, we held it for a while, it appreciated value. When we all went our separate ways, we sold it and we got the profit.
Right.
And we subsequently went on buying properties in Toronto.
Okay.
And which I regret selling back then because my younger sister just sold the one last property she has back in Toronto, and I'm telling you, the profit on that baby was
I
it's
can
just
imagine.
amazing.
Yeah.
So all those type of passive investments, when you buy, you hold,
Yeah.
and you speculate the market, typically pays off. You see what's going on in Ontario and what's going on
Yes,
here now.
Here in Alberta too.
So yeah,
Okay. So it really just helped like open up a whole new
Absolutely.
like avenue for making money and investing. Okay, so now I'm curious because that's an amazing financial decision at 19. But was there any financial mistake? I know you kind of touched on something briefly, but is there any big financial mistake that you made that really gave you like a lasting lesson that you're like,
Oh.
I'm never going to do that again?
absolutely. So I think this is the first time I'm going to be talking about this in public. But
okay.
my husband and I, we were victims of a Ponzi scheme.
Oh.
Yeah, about I would
Wow.
say 9 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, 9 or 10 years ago, and that has left, just something in my heart that I know that I would never do that kind of investment again.
Interesting.
So I'll tell you why that was. I picked that as the example. So you read my bio. I'm a forensic accountant.
Yeah.
I'm a certified fraud examiner.
Yeah.
I'm an accountant, right? So in terms of sophistication when it comes to investment, I think I could pride myself as a sophisticated investor.
Right.
So to fall victim of a Ponzi
Yeah.
scheme.
Do you mind defining
mean-
what a Ponzi scheme is, just for our listeners?
Yeah, a Ponzi scheme is where it's kind of like a pyramid scheme, right? Where there's really the investment is not really in the product or in the service, but you don't know that at that time. You get approached by really close family and friends asking you to invest in something. And because, you're getting approached by people really close to you, you let your guard down. Because
Right.
normally when you're trying to invest, you do your research. It's very structured. There's due diligence.
Yes.
You get referrals, references. If you're in the stock market, you can do your historical look back and projections and all those financial modeling. But in this case, because family is the one coming to you, and you're actually seeing a lot of people reap returns on this type of investment,
Yeah.
you let your guard down. You
Right.
don't normally do the type of due diligence that you would normally do if to invest in a business, right, or in a venture. So yeah, so that's essentially what it is. I think first in, first out. So the first people who invest in
Right.
that venture, obviously they make a
They
killing,
make-
right?
yeah.
Because they want to make that investment seem credible to people, so they
Right.
can get more
Get-
people,
yeah.
right? So you know how a pyramid is. So they collecting money,
Yeah.
right? And at some point, it just kind of
It
collapses
fall-
and
yeah.
crashes, depending on where you get in on that type of investment.
Right.
So, I mean, you live and you learn, but I always say doing your own due diligence
right.
and your research, it's always on you to do that, right?
Right.
It doesn't matter who comes to you with an investment idea, whether it's a family, a friend, a stranger, or even your financial advisor. It's always on you to do your due diligence. And if it doesn't seem good, trust your instinct, just
Right.
kind of walk away. So because of that, I take a very structured and calculated approach in investing and trying to find the investments that I get into.
So the lesson here is make sure you're doing, regardless of how close you are to the person, the onus is on you to do your own due diligence
Absolutely.
and make sure you're not making the wrong decisions. So I'm actually curious then, in terms of money management and personal money management, obviously you're a really busy person. Do you manage your own funds yourself? Like, do you do your own investing, or do you outsource it to, say, a financial advisor?
So I would say it's a balance of both. So I sit on the board of a really big pension fund, right? And we manage like over 25 billion in assets under management. So just being on that investment committee, I've learned a lot in terms
Right.
of, how to manage the investment manager, developing the investment policy, getting the right asset mix, rebalancing portfolio when
Right.
when you need to do that.
Yeah.
So I've taken that learning and applied it to my own personal situation,
Okay.
right? So I may not necessarily manage it myself. Even when I outsource it, I make sure that I have that requisite experience to be able to give proper oversight, right?
Right.
Because when they're telling me something, I want to make sure that I understand what they're
Right.
telling me,
Yeah.
right? Especially if you're investing in the private market, right? Where there's not a lot of information. Because, when you invest in the public market, you can see their financials, everything is public.
Yeah.
But if it's in the private market and it's illiquid, once you put your money in, it's for a very long time.
Yeah.
So you just want to make sure that you understand. So I would say a balance of both.
Okay.
I do some myself and some to my investment.
Okay, that's
my money
interesting.
manager.
Yeah, because that's a question I usually get a lot is, how do you have the time to, and I'm like, I mean, I guess it gets to a point where you kind
Absolutely.
of can't do it by yourself.
can't.
But actually, going back to your experience with the Ponzi scheme, I was reading an article that said that Canadians have been scammed of over $60 million
Yeah.
and counting in bank scams, right? So based on your experience as a forensic accountant and CFE, what are you doing personally to protect yourself from fraud?
Oh, that's a good question. So the statistics that you quote is actually, yes, it's over 60 million and only about 10%. So that's reported. So only about 10% get to report that they've been victims of a
Right.
crime. And the number one most reported fraud is investment fraud.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's number one. And then you also have, the fraud targeted to the elderly people with the romance scams and all of those
Right,
things.
yeah,
But number one is
the
investment.
worst.
So knowing that and knowing, when I used to do a lot of investigations, what I see, the motto that I live by is trust but verify. So if you come to me with a sweet deal, no problem.
Right.
I take it at face value, but I have to do my own due diligence.
Right.
So that in the future, if it went belly up, I knew I did what I had to do and it just happened,
Yeah.
right? But I would never, just always trust but verify.
Right. Trust but verify. That's good. Yeah, because I know, I mean, right now it's actually so horrible with all the bank scams. Like, you get a call and people who are not very, like, I don't even know if it's tech savvy or, I don't know, fraud savvy or whatever, they fall victim because it's super easy. You give them a code, especially the bank scams, because the bank wouldn't actually give you back the money because it looks like you were the one who logged into the account
Absolutely.
and gave them the money. So, but for that specific type of fraud, is there anything you're doing other than the typical, like, setting up two-factor authenticator, what else can people do to protect themselves?
Advice that I would share, or just, safety tips. MFA, so multi-factor authentication, make sure that you just sign up for them. So it doesn't even have to be, on the bank level. It could be on all your social media apps. I always tell people,
Right.
because you could get in anywhere, right?
Yeah.
So MFA, don't pick up any of those numbers, right?
If you don't know the number,
don't.
yeah.
If you don't know the number. And I think in this day and age, technology is so good that when you see a number come through that you don't recognize, it tells you possible spam or something. So
Exactly.
don't pick up.
Yeah.
For me, if your number is not saved in my contact, I won't pick it up.
Yeah. If it's that important, you leave a voice.
You leave a
note.
voice message and I'll call you back. So
Yeah.
don't pick it up. And if anybody calls you about something and there's that sense of urgency, just hang up. Don't even continue with the conversation. And then there's something that I tell my kids now, because obviously everybody wants to make money. They get all this text about, there's a job waiting for you. Just respond to this, or
Yeah.
you just get a text saying, "Hi, sorry, we cut off, or I'm waiting for yours," and you fall victim to that
Yes.
conversation. So they want to have a conversation with you.
Right.
So don't even. You're not that bored.
Yeah.
Just don't participate. Don't do it. Don't
Okay.
fall for that.
Good. That's good to know. Yeah. Don't fall, because they're getting really crafty, especially with AI. Like, I'm
Absolutely.
actually
And the
really
deepfakes.
worried about.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think as long as we're just more aware of the fact that these things are out there, we'll probably be better prepared. Okay. So I know that you're also a business owner. So you do some financial, like, accounting and bookkeeping for small business owners, right? What advice do you have for female entrepreneurs in terms of how they can set up financial systems for their business for success?
Yeah. So that's a very important one. I wouldn't even just say female entrepreneurs, just entrepreneurs in general. It's okay to outsource the accounting piece to an expert, but I always stress the importance of having financial oversight. So oftentimes I find that a lot of people get scared, or they shy away when you start talking about financial statements. They just don't want to see it. Like, it gives them phobia. But I always say you just have to keep it simple. If there is a line item there that you understand, so a lot of people understand the profit and loss statement, maybe
Yeah.
not necessarily the balance sheet or cash flow, but they understand the P&L. Revenues, so you know how the money is coming in, and you know what expenses mean. So if there's certain line items you want to hone in, so that quarter after quarter you're tracking it, you're tracking that trajectory for trends, for
Right.
patterns, for outliers.
Yeah.
That way you can detect when things are going wrong, and you're able to have that conversation with your accountant to say, "Hey, I noticed this, what's going on," right? So yes, absolutely outsource, the accounting to an expert, but always have that level of financial acumen or
Right.
oversight. Because at the end of the day, it's still your business,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then I always say, know when to cut your losses. I don't know if you know this, but we used to own a clothing store called German Street at TD Square at the core downtown here in Calgary. And, as an accountant, year over year, we were losing money. The Calgary market just was not ready for it. And, we were so emotionally invested in it. At some point, I said, you know what, take your own professional advice, get the emotions out of things,
Right.
crunch the numbers, and if it's not working, let's cut our losses now. And I'm so happy we did that, because 2 years after we closed, COVID happened. So just imagine,
wow.
you just keep going down in the red,
Yeah.
right? So just know when to cut your losses, and don't be emotional about it.
Yeah.
And that's
So
what I would
is
say.
that's interesting. So obviously, knowing when to cut your losses, is there really like a threshold? Because obviously some people have resilience, right? Like, you have a business, even if it's not operating. I know Uber was running at losses. It was only like 2 years ago that he actually started to run a profit, right? And that's a major company. So how do you separate having resilience from just knowing when it's time to just cut it?
I think when you've exhausted all resources and all avenues. Number one, you're not even breaking even. Capital injection, where are you going to get funding from? How are you going to fund the business? The biggest expense at that time to us was salaries. I was so grateful to God that I didn't quit my day job, because I used to take my salary from here to pay here.
Oh, wow.
And I had a family and a household to run.
Yeah.
Right? And, you negotiate rent till you turn blue and they make it a percentage of your sales. But what if the sales are not coming in, right?
Yeah.
All our sales were during Stampede time, and after Stampede, it was just out the window. So I think because when you sit down with an expert and you're looking to see, okay, how else can I inject capital into this business, and nobody's willing to put money into a sinking ship,
Right.
then what are you going to do? So
Right.
you need to know when to kind of cut your losses or pivot into something else.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so there are multiple factors that might influence
absolutely.
that decision. So I'm actually curious now. Just going back to like personal, your personal money. Obviously, as a married woman, a family person, how are you approaching money with your spouse? Because I've seen, obviously, I've also had guests here who've kind of said same thing, like they've kind of followed through with their parents' style, where dad is the one who does the planning, maybe mom doesn't spend as much this time, but she, just gives the husband everything to do because that's what his strength lies, right? But in terms of how you're doing that with your spouse, like, is there something that you're doing differently, or is it more like a partnership?
I would say it's more of like a partnership. My husband is also a CPA, right? He's also an accountant, and I'm an accountant. So in terms of, setting the annual budgets and the monthly budgets, we travel a lot. So we need a lot of disposable income to be able to fund our travel lifestyle. So we have to make sure that, we budget accordingly and properly.
Yeah.
So I would say it's split, but I would say my husband does a lot more of it.
Okay.
And I just kind of have oversight.
Okay.
Because I used to do it and I thought, and it just, at some point it fell on his lap, but he's always pushing it back to me.
Right. So it's like a shared thing.
It's
not
a shared
just
thing.
it's a man thing.
It's a shared thing.
Right.
There's this shared thing. It can be quite frugal, and I'm more liberal. So it depends on what our goal is. But yeah, so I would say it's a shared thing.
Okay, that's interesting. So when you say you're more liberal, like you still save and you still obviously put money away, but how do you draw that balance then between like getting the things, using your money to meet the wants versus
the needs,
and also saving for the future? I asked because I had a guest here 2 days ago who said that he believes that there's no point in having money if it's not being spent. He doesn't believe in saving, but he believes in using money to meet your milestones. So he has a house, he has a family, but if you're putting money away, you're robbing yourself of like enjoying your life and doing the things you want to do now for a future that you don't know.
I would say it depends, right? We don't just put money away for putting money aside just for the sake of it, just to see the cushion grow. A lot of our stuff is illiquid, so it's not, you can't just immediately liquidate them because they're an investment, right? So whether it's like in real estate, in a business, or something. But at the end of the day, just because we know that life is too short and we've experienced a lot of loss in our life, we've decided, or we agreed to just live in the moment, live in the present.
Right.
While creating that generational wealth for my children, right?
I see.
Because what I often loved when I was growing up, or it was just something that I envied some of my friends, was, when they say, oh, that person, they came from money. Their family, they came from money. But what does that mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't until I got older I realized that what they were describing was that that generational wealth that was passed on from the grandfather to the father to the children now, whether it's in terms of assets, investments, businesses, just something for them to have that financial stability, right? Because I feel that that's a differentiating factor when you don't have to worry about money. And that's something that, we try and build, we're trying to build anyways for my children, to say, okay, there's that generational wealth that will pass on to you, and you're going to pass it on to your children.
Right.
So you guys have that financial stability and an edge against everybody, right? Because I think it's very important.
Okay. So you're balancing it out by doing the things you want to do now.
Absolutely.
But also still looking at the future and planning for how, like, your kids. I'm actually really curious to what would you say is your preferred investment vehicle? Stocks or real estate? And by stocks, it would also be like public or private kind of entities.
Yeah, I just think because of the success we've seen and because of the way things are going out of the market, I'd probably say real estate because it's tangible, but it's a buy and hold, right? You're not buying and selling tomorrow. It's a buy and hold. And I can kind of see how you can create structures for it to, for your money to work for you in a
Right.
long term, like buying like a multiplex as opposed to like a single unit. So
Right.
making it into a business, right? So I'll probably say more real estate. And then more, what people don't often talk about is investing in the private market, right? Again, it's longer term. They're all illiquid investments. But yeah, and then public.
Public.
I think it's a mix of both. You
Yeah.
kind of have to have a
But
balanced
more.
mix in your asset mix because you just never know. You can't predict the market. Like we might have a recession and the housing market will fall.
Right.
Something could happen that would kind of shift the public market, right?
Yeah.
So, and then we could have like, a life event like COVID and it could affect PE, so public equities and things
Yeah.
like that, private equities,
Right.
sorry. So I would say it's just having the right balance in your asset mix, right? And you just diversify and spread your risk.
Right. So last question then, what do you think is the biggest misconception that women have about building wealth and finances? Either women have or women are told and taught about finances.
I think the biggest misconception that I think women have is I think it's not really a misconception. I think it's innate. It's just the fear holds us back, right? That we're not natural entrepreneurs. Just fear of taking calculated risk or even risks that are not calculated. Just fear of taking that risk, taking the leap, going out, securing capital, doing all those things that a man would just sweet talk his way and do. So I would say those are kind of the things that I would say hold women back because just by our very nature, before we embark on a journey or a venture, I think we overthink it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But a man would just
We
do.
just do, yeah.
Because sometimes I'm having conversations with my husband. Have we thought of this? Oh, I already signed the paper. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, don't worry about that.
We'll deal with it.
We'll deal with it
As it
when we
comes.
get there. And I'm starting to think like that. So, and I never thought I was, because I always thought I'm not a born entrepreneur, but entrepreneurs can be made, right?
Right.
So I think those are some of the things that, hold women back that I think is a myth. You can do it. You just have to try. And if you fail forward, you do something else.
Yeah.
You just don't want in your old age thinking, shoulda, coulda, woulda. I should have done this. I could have done that. That's
Yeah.
something I never want to do in my life. So
Right.
anything that I want to do, whether it's anything to do with enjoyment, career, doesn't matter. I go for it.
Okay, I love that. Speaking of enjoyment, what's one what's one thing that is a guilty pleasure that you spend on, even if you probably think you shouldn't, but you do it anyways?
This always happens at nighttime. I wake up at night, I can't sleep. I'm on all the apps, like it's just click. And the funny thing, Apple Pay is so bad. It makes it so bad that you just do one click.
They make it easy.
So make it
Spend
easy.
money.
You just click, and before you think of it, you can't even say no. I don't want to do this anymore. You just click, and it goes. But I look for sales and I shop a lot on all of
Okay.
these apps. Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair. We all have our thing.
vices.
All right, so we're gonna play a game.
Okay.
It's called This or That. I'll just ask you this, give you two options and you choose whichever one comes to your mind first. Luxury vacation versus luxury bag.
Luxury vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah, memories.
Yeah.
Memories.
Order in or make it yourself.
Order in. I hate cooking. I could clean my house top to bottom from morning to night, but then we'll all be hungry. I don't like cooking
But
at all.
I thought I saw during COVID.
Yes, out of
Okay.
necessity. And my kids always guilt trip me and say, Mom, I really like that your jollof. Mom, can you make this for me? Yes.
Yeah.
Just out of necessity, but nah.
Okay, so order in. Splurge on skincare or makeup.
I would probably say makeup because I'm just getting into skincare. I really don't understand that whole thing.
Like 7 steps.
I don't get it. And I
it's a
don't know
lot.
what works with what. I don't know. But
Yeah.
makeup, I just took a class and I bought a whole bunch of new products. So yeah,
Okay.
maybe splurge on makeup.
Okay. And then front row seats to see your favorite musician or a 1 hour one-on-one with Warren Buffett.
Oh, maybe a 1 hour one-on-one with Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
Because for that favorite musician, I probably get to see him next year when they release another album, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But with Warren Buffett, I think he's getting up there
He's
in age,
getting up
right?
there, yeah. You never know.
So you
how
never
long
know.
He has left. Okay, so final question. What is one money habit that you swear by that is just your thing and works for you?
This may not work for everyone. And I think that there's multiple schools of thought about what I'm going to say.
Okay.
But this money habit works for me and my family.
Okay.
So with me and my husband as a partnership, we have one account.
Okay.
So our income. So I think before people get married, they always talk about, having separate accounts.
Yeah.
And then, how are you going to deal with money, right? So you're
Right.
earning and he's earning. Do we have one account or do we have separate accounts?
Yeah.
I believe in transparency. So we have that one account. So there's one part where everything goes in. And then there's that one part where all the expenses come out from. Right?
Okay.
And then you're probably wondering, so then what if you wanted to buy something?
That was
and
going to
it's
be my
not?
next question.
Yeah, but I still have my, my side account where
Okay.
my side hustle goes in, or
Right.
I can easily transfer, discretionary income from that account to the other one, and so does my spouse. But I think for the sake of transparency, I think it's required so that I've heard about couples where, you have one spouse that just spends a lot.
Yeah.
And the other spouse doesn't know what the other one is doing or had a different picture about what their finances look like.
Right. They just let the other person
Just
take
let
full
but in
control.
this case, I think if you're transparent and if everything comes into that pot, just like an organization where all the revenue comes in, like the advice you give to your clients when you're setting up a business is have that one account, your business account, where revenue goes in, expenses come out, and then your net income, then you can do whatever you want with it, right? So I would say that's the one.
So it's having one account shared with your partner that everything goes in. Do you guys discuss, obviously you would probably discuss like major expenses, right?
Absolutely.
Do you discuss like, is there a threshold? Like what I'm trying to understand
Like if I wanted to go buy a purse.
Exactly. If you wanted to buy like, I don't know, a $3,000 purse, like is it discussed or is it kind of everyone?
It's just I think I'm more of the spender than say my spouse, and I think I do the shopping for both of us, right? So if we were going on a trip and like I style alcohol, so my husband. So if we're going on a trip and we needed something, I just go and I just do and I buy.
Yeah.
But of course, I know I wouldn't run us in the red just because I'm trying to fulfill something.
So there's that trust
There's
too
that
on his
trust,
side that
yeah.
you're not just going to do.
Yeah.
And I guess that's probably because he knows that you also have the financial acumen.
Absolutely.
So, but now I'm curious, what do you think is one financial red flag that single ladies should look out for when they're thinking about partnering?
Yeah, I think financial red flags, when you don't fully understand where the money is coming from, whether it's from the man or the woman, I think, or when things don't make sense or things are not adding up. So the person maybe is very lavish, just spending. When I see people, I can just assess. You tell me what you do. In my head, I kind of know, your income bracket. So then I can add a few zeros maybe from other sources and things like that. I know when things are not adding up, right? And I think that's where that transparency comes from.
Right.
So if things are not adding up from what they're telling you in terms of their various sources of income compared to what their lifestyle is,
Yeah.
and you're talking about it and you still don't understand it because it's not straightforward, I think that's a red flag.
I love that. Because, there's a lot of scammers out
Oh my
there.
goodness, yes. They come and they flashy Gucci, they spend it that. But at the end of the day, we all know if you don't have that generational wealth and you have a job where we know what the salary income band looks like, and you're living above your means, and you're presenting as somebody that you're not,
There's something there. I love that. All right. Well, you heard it. Make sure you ask the right questions. And like you said, trust but verify. Well, thank you so much for coming, Chioma.
Thank you for having
I
me.
really appreciate your time. I wanted to give you your flowers because I feel like, I don't think I've actually ever told you this, but so we had a conversation, I think back in 2018, when I was working in oil and gas. I was lost. I was like, I knew oil and gas wasn't for me. And I was just asking about like options, right? And then you're like, oh, I know someone, like a partner who works for me. At the time, I knew I wanted to pivot to tech. And I guess my option was to move to a firm and then go to tech, right? And so I think we only chatted for like 30 minutes. And then you set up the meeting. You know, like one of those uncles that say, I'll see what I can do. You actually saw what you could do and you did it. And I think making that switch from oil and gas into the firm, it literally helped me pivot and it set the trajectory that I'm on right now. So thank you.
No, you're very welcome.
And I know that there's so many other people out there who you've also impacted. So I'll say keep doing you, keep being the person. I don't know how you find the time to do that. Like, I think every time I feel lazy, I'm like, if Chioma is with 4 kids and doing all of that, then yeah. So thank you for being you.
No, thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. If you liked it and if you found it helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. And maybe share it with a friend that might find this helpful. As always, I'm your host, Jennifer Ikoroje, and this is Inside Your Finance.